This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas, and I'm doing some garter bar lessons, and this one is about how to do a dart in the middle of the knitting. That is, a decrease. It is done by decreasing one stitch every few rows so that the knitting gradually narrows. And I'm leaving this stitch alone, and I'm just decreasing onto it every few rows. And let's say that for this dart, which looks like a skirt dart with this part in the middle going away, let's say that for this dart I'm going to decrease one stitch every 4 rows. That's one kind of dart. You could also do a dart that I would call a dress dart, where it decreases on this part of the dart and then it increases here, gradually putting back those stitches every 4 rows. So to begin, let's do the decrease. You need to identify the needle working with the pattern where you're going to do the decrease, and in my case I'm going to do it here. I'm going to move the stitch from one right to the stitch to the needle on one left, so that there's 2 stitches there. And then, if you were doing this with a transfer tool, you would move the stitches a couple at a time and fill this in so that these all move over one stitch to the left, which is kind of an obvious place where you could use the garter bar instead. So let me bring these all out to hold position and put the stopper in place. This braces the needles so that they're not going to move. Then push the yarn back. The knitting being pushed back opens all the latches except for this empty one, and I've got that with my finger. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to only work on this side. I'm just going to leave these stitches alone, and to keep them from coming off, I hang a transfer tool to just act as a plug so that those stitches don't slide off. And I take the garter bar and I put it on the needles where the stitches are that I want to move, and then I pop the stitches onto it, push back a little to open the latches, and up and move over, and then I can pop the stitches right onto the needles. Now it's important at this point to remember that I have an empty needle here, and I don't want an empty needle because the machine will just fill it in. So I have to take the empty needle out of work. I'm going to knit 4 rows, and then I'm going to do that again. So to repeat, I make the transfer first. This is handy because when I pull everything out, I can see exactly what I'm going to move. And then bring the needles out, set the stopper in place, push the knitting back, use a transfer tool to trap the stitches that I don't want to move over on the left, hang the garter bar on the stitches that I do want to move, and then move those stitches. And I get everything put back in order so that I can knit again. Now I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to do 2 more decreases and then show the increase. At this point I have done all of the decreases, and I was on needle 14 over here on the right. Now I'm on needle 10 on the right. On the left nothing has moved. So here's the dart forming. Now let's say that that was all of the decreases, and then at this point I was going to do the increases. So to do the increases, I'm going to knit 4 rows, increase, knit 4 rows, increase. So let me do the first of those. So knit 4 rows, and then let me bring the needles out. And I'm just going to keep track of where I want to increase. I want to move these 2 over. So I just put that transfer tool there as a marker because once I drop the stopper into place, I really can't see anything. And what I'm going to do is, since I want to move these over to the right, actually I need the transfer tool here, and I need one more stitch. One more needle to put a stitch on. Okay, so I'm all set to move those stitches over. So I simply put the garter bar on the hooks, pop the stitches onto the garter bar, move over by a needle, and put the stitches onto their hooks. Now there's a gap. Here's the gap right here. I fill in the gap by picking up the heel of the stitch over to one side. So that fills that in. Now I'm going to do that once more, and then I'll do it twice more off camera. So let me do 4 rows of plain knitting. Bring the needles out, put the stopper on, I just have my finger here to remember where I want to do my increase. Oh, I forgot the extra needle. Okay, so I've got the stopper on and I have the extra empty needle. I'd be in trouble without that needle. I would put the garter bar on, move the stitches over, and have no place to put them. Okay, everybody back, and then stitches on the garter bar, move over to the right, and lift up and pop on. And then of course I have to fill in this empty needle. If I don't fill in that empty needle, I'm going to have a hole. And then knit 4 more rows. Now I'm going to do 2 more increases off camera. Okay, now I have all my decreases done, all my increases done. I'm going to knit a few rows and take this off so that you can see how it looks from the knit side. It's not easy to see it all on the purl side, but from the knit side you'll be able to see how the increases and decreases in the middle of the knitting look. Okay, here are how the decreases looked on the bottom half of this dart. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and you can see the one straight stitch coming up where I did not decrease. And then let me bring this down a little bit and show how the increases looked. Here is the first increase. You see the fork in the road here? 1, 2, 3, 4 increases. So that's how to make a vertical dart in the knitting. There are lots of other situations where you need to increase gradually in the middle of the knitting, and the garter bar is a good way to do that.